For the first time in history, there are 4 generations working side by side. As reflected in the birth rates, the United States population has seen many ups and downs over the years due to special circumstances of that time. According to a study from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, in 2011 there was a wide variety of each generation in the workforce. As birthing rates continue to increase, the diversity of each generation will continue to make a drastic shift. The traditionalist, baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials each make up an important part of the workforce. It is important for us to identify each generation and the historical events of their time. As we understand the many differences in attitudes and working styles, people from all generations are able to work together more effectively and efficiently. The first generation making up today's workforce is the traditionalist, also known as the GI or silent generation. This generation consists of those born between the years of 1925 and 1942. Members of this era often came from large families and were in their youth during the Great Depression. Growing up working in factories and industrialized society, traditionalists are seen as loyal to their country and their employers. They often have a strong sense of work ethic and believe that work is a privilege, not a right. The women of the traditionalist generation are often not seen in the workforce, as it is their role to take care of their families and their home. The second generation making up today's workforce is the baby boomers. This generation consists of those born between the years of 1943 and 1960. Members of this generation are said to have grown up in the age of innocence. Family was at the core of this culture, as television brought them together, linking them to society by a new age of connectedness. Despite the idealism of the 1950s, the baby boomers lived under a cloud of Cold War fears, as the terror of war was always present. Members of this era are great believers in the reform and look to change the world. Teenagers and young adults started a newfound optimism and hope for civil rights and social change, which was shattered with President Kennedy's assassination and the turmoil of the 1960s. They were greatly impacted by the speeches of Martin Luther King Jr. In the late 1970s, the baby boomers brought a movement towards stability and made change they had been seeking to do. The third generation making up today's workforce is Generation X. This generation consists of those born between the years of 1961 and 1981. Members of this time became young adults in the 1980s and were led by Presidents Reagan and Nixon. They are known as the MTV generation, as they started the great diversity in media and entertainment. Generation X also started new trends such as biracial families, increased ethnic diversity, and had a larger percentage of college attendees. Those born during this time had to learn technology at an older age, so personal computers were more common. They also endured hardships such as the stock market crash, rising divorce rates, and faltering economy. Generation X members are known to work hard and play hard. The last generation making up today's workforce is the millennials, also known as Generation Y. This generation consists of those born between the years of 1981 and the early 2000s. Millennial children are seen as being sheltered and protected, while being treated as special and important, giving them the nickname Generation Me. They grew up during a time of increased safety measures and were born into economic prosperity. Technology and internet usage was always part of their lives. For millennial, achievement is important, but there is a constant feeling of pressure, being tightly scheduled and needing to fill every hour with activity. Members of this generation grew up during the Afghanistan War, as well as the 9/11 attacks on the United States. The first step in bridging the gap between the traditionalist, baby boomer, Generation X, and millennial generations is understanding these historical events and how they have helped mold members of each generation. We must make the decision to figure out what is the best way to work with people who were raised in a different time period than yourself. Each generation is unique in the way they connect, learn, and work. As we look across the generations and progress forward, this is what we see. Time becomes more valuable, expectations rise, the sense of entitlement increases, and the desire for customization expands. It isn't until we understand these points in each generation individually that we are able to work together in unity.